My name is Emma McLean, and I got the story Daughter of Invention by Julia Alvarez. The story is about a girl and her family, and they struggle because they just moved from the Dominican Republic to America, and they're struggling with the English language, and the main character, Kukita, actually had to write a story or a speech and present it in front of her class, which was kind of a struggle, and you'll see why in a second. So the father and his daughter Kukita are having a disagreement over the speech she wrote for Teacher Day. Her father is upset because he felt like she was hiding her culture and he wanted to keep the Dominican Republic culture alive. So some foreshadowing in the story is when, in the beginning of the story, it tells how the mother didn't really go anywhere with her job as an inventor and a writer, and it was from Kukita's point of view, and obviously she had to write a story, so it kind of foreshadowed that Kukita would take in her mother's footsteps and write an amazing story. So the setting of the story was in 1960s. The family just moved to New York from the Dominican Republic. So the point of view in the story is it's by Kukita, and it's in first person, and Kukita is the main character. And since it is told from her, we're only limited to her thoughts and feelings and not her dad's. So for example, when she reads her speech to her dad, her father, we didn't get any insight from her father since it was from Kukita's point of view. So the theme of the Daughter of Invention is to accept change, and it's okay to adapt to your surroundings. So this really shows when the father didn't think it was okay to adapt to America, and he didn't think it was okay to learn the language. That's why he didn't really speak that much English, because he wanted to keep his culture alive. And so yeah. And then the tone of the story was frustration. The dad was frustrated at his daughter for wanting to change herself, and the daughter was frustrated at the dad for getting mad at her for trying to change and hide that original side from people at school. So the characterization in the story was really changed. So at first, the main character was happy that she moved. She was happy she was finally understanding the English language, and she thought that it was finally okay to change her culture, and she thought her speech was really good. And then it kind of changed to frustrated a bit, because when her dad didn't like her speech, it really affected her. And then it ended with happiness, since she did forgive her dad for ripping up her speech and disliking it at the end of the story. And then the conflict was that Kukita had to write a speech for Teacher Day, and she is very passionate about it, but her father did not like it and tears it into shreds. And there was a resolution. At the end of the story, Kukita's mother's talent is passed on to her and helps her write an amazing speech that her dad would approve of. And then the antagonist in the story was her dad, because he did create the conflict by ripping up her presentation and disliking it. So the protagonist in the story is the main character, Kukita. She's known as the good guy in the story. There are many different types of figurative language in this Daughter of Invention. There's metaphors, personification, similes, and imagery. So a metaphor in the story was gravy on the turkey. This showed the phrase it applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. So personification in the story is when it's stated faces flushed with accomplishment. This gives a non-living thing a living characteristic. So a simile in the story is when it said in barely audible Spanish, as if secret microphones or informers were all about. So I thought this was a simile because it does use as, and it compares to object. An imagery in the story was my mother's eyebrows shot up and her mouth fell open. So this is imagery because it really projects like an image in a reader's mind of her mom being surprised and shocked. So the rising action of the story was when Kukita writes her speech to present on Teacher Day, and she's on her way to read it to her dad. The climax of the story was when her father did not like the speech, rips it up and tears it and throws it away. This is the climax because it really was a turning point in the story because everything was going fine. Her speech was perfect according to her mother, and it really made the story turn because like no one was expecting her father to dislike it. So the following action of the story was when, mad at her father, Kukita runs up to her room and locks the door. Once her mom joined her, they wrote an incredible speech that her father would approve of. So this was the following action because it really kind of solved the conflict in the climax. So that's why. And then symbolism is in the story. Her dad gave her a typewriter, and this showed me that he saw her potential in writing and how it was passed on from her mother.